Welcome to the DFO Fantasy Show. I'm your host, Brock Seguin, managing fantasy editor of Daily Faceoff.com. And it's here. It's hockey day. The NHL is back. So excited. We got a 3-game slate on this Tuesday. We are so back. If you play DFS, stay tuned on this channel later today. Myself and Zach Lang will have our DFS show live at 2 p.m. where we break down the slate, talk about our favorite plays. We've also got some betting content from Matthew Barnaby coming as well. So going to be a great day here at the DFO Fantasy and Betting channel. And if you're listening on podcast, if you would rather see us, head over to the DFO Fantasy and Betting YouTube channel. Subscribe today. Today, we've got our Around the League segment where each week, every Tuesday, I'm going to be bringing in a guest from around the league to talk about some of the most important fantasy topics at the moment. Today, I'm happy to have Steven Ellis joining us later, Daily Faceoff's own prospect analyst. We're going to talk about just a really impressive rookie crop for fantasy hockey this year. But before we get to Steven, let's get to the news and notes from around the league. We'll start with some of the news for today's games. Anton Lundell and Aaron Ekblad are both good to go for the Florida Panthers. Lundell was hurt last Thursday. Ekblad was hurt on Saturday in that absolute melee. But both, Paul Maurice said, are good to go for the season opener. On the other side of the ice, you've got the Chicago Blackhawks, where Alex Vlasic will miss the season opener with a lower body injury. The Rangers host the Penguins tonight. JT Miller and Artemi Panarin are both good to go for the Rangers season opener, while Brian Rust will be missing on the Penguins side. He was added to IR yesterday with a lower body injury and is expected to miss a couple of weeks. The Kings will host the Avalanche tonight. We've got Alex Laferriere. He was a full participant in Monday's practice. The Kings are optimistic that he'll play tonight, but they said it's not a for sure that he'll be there. And then Mackenzie Blackwood definitely will not be in Los Angeles. He did not make the trip for their 1-game road trip to Los Angeles to start the season. So Scott Wedgwood's expected to get the start for the Avs. Blackwood was on the ice on Monday, though, so he may not be sidelined long-term. So if he dropped in your fantasy leagues and you were able to scoop him up, he should be back sooner rather than later and hopefully start racking up wins for you. And then just some of the notable players added to injured reserve yesterday that weren't kind of necessarily 100% expected to land on IR. We'll start with the forwards, Drake Batherson from Ottawa, Jonathan Huberdeau from the Flames, Jonathan Taves from the Jets, Capo Caco from the Kraken, Martin Pospisil from the Flames. On the blue line, you had Adonis Brodin of the Wild, Owen Power and Michael Kesselring of the Sabres, Cam York of the Flyers, and Riker Evans of the Seattle Kraken. And then between the pipes, Joseph Woll and Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen. Obviously, a lot more names added to IR yesterday, but some of them were pretty obvious. I mentioned Brian Rust as well. So with that, let's jump into our Around the League segment and welcome in our friend Steven Ellis.
Brock, how you doing?
Good, thanks. How are you? It's hockey day. We joked about it pre-show that when you watch as much hockey as you do, maybe the start of the NHL season isn't quite as exciting as it is for someone like me, but got to be excited nonetheless.
It'll feel real tomorrow when I'm at the Montreal versus Toronto home opener. Like I always try to make sure I'm at that home opener. It's that's when you hear the crowd back, like at 20,000 people again for the first time in a long time. That's where things feel really fun.
Yeah, the excitement level for that game is always really interesting. The two teams that play each other very hard, and there always seem to be close games, and it's just a great way to kick off the season. But tonight, 3 games on the schedule. A couple of the rookies that we're going to talk about today in action tonight. So I mentioned at the top of the show, this is a really impressive rookie class. I guess just more from a fantasy perspective than anything. Like, it's very rare that you can have this many impact rookies, specifically on the blue line this year. There is a handful of rookies that are going to step into power play 2 roles at the very least to start the season and have real opportunities to move up to power play 1. So let's start with the defenseman. Give me some of your favorite rookies for fantasy hockey this year.
Well, the one that I'm looking at least with the best shot at winning the Calder Trophy and getting the most opportunities, it's not Zane Parekh, it's not Zeev Buium, it's actually Alexander Nikishin out of the Carolina Hurricanes. And I think there will be some things he's got to adjust to, having played in the KHL the last couple of years. But, you know, he's got a lot of pro experience already. He is older. He is 23. He'll be 24 in a few weeks. And the fact that he's been so productive, he's had multiple 45, 50, 55-point seasons in the KHL already. For a guy that wasn't drafted for any offensive abilities, like he was drafted, I think it was 69th overall in 2020. It was more for his size. He was 6'4". How can you really take advantage of that? But he became this really strong offensive defenseman. And Carolina has a couple of veteran defensemen he's going to go out there and beat. But I think before too long, he's a guy who should be on the top pairing, playing a lot of minutes. He should be able to handle that no problem. And the fact that he is an older defenseman, I think, does give him an edge in the Calder race. But Z Bouillon, 19 years old, in Minnesota Wild, he could be on the top pairing out of the gate. Obviously, Brock Faber is the guy everyone's kind of looking at there as the more of the established young guy. But with Bouillon, just a purely dominant couple years in the NCAA. Like, you look at how impactful he was. It was kind of like, not to the same extent, like he's not Cale Makar, but he was as important to Denver as Cale Makar was to UMass at points. And I think you're looking at this like, okay, can he go out there and be this great all-around defenseman? I think so. And Zane Parek's another guy. Like, he's someone that you're going to pay to watch play. He's so much fun to watch. Calgary Flames defenseman, 19 years old. He's got another year of junior eligibility, but I don't know what else he's got to prove in Saginaw. So I think the reason I got him maybe a little lower than the other two is it does seem like he's going to probably start a little deeper in the lineup, but it won't be long till he figures things out. His defensive game is maybe not as polished as someone like Alexander Nikishin, but it's improved enough a lot in the last 2 years that I think I'm not too worried about it. So, like, those are the three I'm looking at. Like, okay, these guys are going to put up points. They're going to be valuable. Nikishin, he should be able to hit. He's not going to throw a ton of hits. That's not his game has transitioned to a bit more skilled, but he is 6'4", and I think that gives him advantage. And then you look at guys like Sam Renzel in Chicago, Artem Levshunov also in Chicago, Matthew Schaefer on the Islanders. I think it's going to be a bit more difficult for him just because he is an 18-year-old defenseman, and that is a very tough ask of him. But overall, like, that's just the defensive crop. And when you look at last year, it was Lane Hudson and nobody else. Like, I voted for the Calder, and I voted for the all-rookie team, and it was like impossible to find that second defenseman. This year it might be hard to find that second defenseman because it might just be hard to pick one extra defenseman. So it's going to be a fun group this year.
I've talked about Zane Parekh a lot this preseason. I've talked with Ryan Pike of Flames Nation. He essentially said he had to play his way off the team. He was so good in the preseason. And it looks like he could be on the outside looking in, as you mentioned, to start the season. But, like, do you foresee that potentially being kind of a Lane Hudson situation where Mackenzie Weegar is a guy that plays so many minutes, and maybe getting him off the top power play unit and letting Parekh flourish there? Do you think that is an avenue that Parekh has, or do you think there's just no chance that he is like a Lane Hudson type player in year one?
I don't think he's going to put up Lane Hudson numbers, but I think with Parekh, it's still going to be one heck of a season. Like, 40 points is definitely on the table here, and I think that his ability to go out there and dominate in the OHL was incredible, and I think he will get exposed a bit defensively. But like Lane Hudson, that was a big issue for him coming to the NHL, and it didn't feel like that was a big issue for him in that second half. So I'm not too worried there, but I think Parekh is going to really force his way into a lot of ice time. Like, I won't be surprised if by the end of the year we're talking 22, 23 minutes a night. I think he's going to put himself in that conversation to play a ton of the power play and kind of do everything out there. So I do really like what he's capable of.
I think maybe keeping him out of the lineup against the Oilers on night one might just be like, hey, maybe we don't want you to get exposed by Connor McDavid, right out of the gate. Sam Renzel's a guy that you mentioned, and I talked about him a lot preseason as well, and kind of likened his potential rookie season to what we saw from Brock Faber in his rookie year, in where he was, narrowly lost the Calder Trophy vote. Just a big body, shoots the puck, is physical, and he's a guy that's going to step into like 23, 24, 25 minutes, especially starting tonight with Alex Vlasic out. Is Renzel a type of player that can just kind of pull off the Brock Faber type production and potentially work his way into the Calder Trophy vote?
I think with him, his game is not super flashy, and I feel like he's going to have a lot more real life value than he will fantasy value. I think when he put up the numbers he put up in college last year, it surprised a lot of people, myself included, because it was, again, more of this guy who was projecting to be more of this high-end shutdown guy, and he showed a lot of offensive stylings that I think no one really saw coming. So I think with him, it'll be interesting to kind of see how they use him. He's going to play a lot of minutes with the Blackhawks, and I think he's going to have really good defensive metrics for being a Chicago Blackhawks defenseman, given obviously they're not going to be a contender this year. But I wouldn't put him in the same realm as those other guys in terms of what you would expect with the puck. And that's just because I don't know if his offensive game will fully translate. He played a lot of power play minutes. He could do that in Chicago, but it's just more like I feel like he's going to be better defensively than he is offensively. And I think that's where a lot of his real life value is going to come from.
Okay, before we move to the forwards, I just have to ask, as a Red Wings fan, thoughts on Axel Sandin-Pellikka?
Hey, I'm so happy he made the opening night lineup. He's going to be a very good defenseman. I feel like, as much as I liked him in Sweden, I feel like it's only a matter of time before he eventually heads to the AHL and just plays like heavy minutes. Like it's good. Like when it comes to rookies, I always say like be patient with these guys. Like you don't need to rush them into the lineup. They have 3 coming in to start. I would expect all of them to go back to the AHL, and it's not due to like their poor play. It's more of just like, okay, guys, like let's go and get you just the proper development. We don't need to rush you. You are all 3 solid guys. Like I'm a big Brandon Nygaard fan, but with Sandin-Pellikka, I think like if he's not a full-time NHLer this year, he will be next year. And I think he'll be impactful right out of the gates because he has shown at every level he can be one of the best defensemen at his age. And then last year in the SHL, he was just one of the best defenders, period. But I think it'll just be interesting to see how they deploy him right away. But I liked his preseason. I really like where his game's at right now. And no question about it, he had to be there to start the NHL season. He's better than Justin Hall. Not exactly the hardest thing in the world to do, but I think it'll be interesting to see if they keep him in the NHL for long, or if he goes to the AHL to play like 22, 23 minutes a night.
Yeah, I think early in the preseason, maybe he was adjusting to the smaller ice a little bit, and then seemed to really find his footing there in the second half of the preseason. Looked great and kind of forced the Red Wings' hand. So I'll be interested. Obviously, he's expected to start on power play 2, expected to start next to Simon Edvinsson in the top 4. So if he can stick around, I think he's got some dynasty value this year. But it's just a matter of time. If he goes to the AHL or not, we'll have to see. Okay, there's a good forward group as well. Not the defensive group just is better than I think it's ever been, as you mentioned earlier. The forward group's got some big names as well. Who are your favorite forwards for fantasy hockey this year?
Well, Ivan Demidov from the Montreal Canadiens. That's the easiest one there. He's the guy that everyone's looking at as the Calder favorite there, and it's hard to disagree. I know like those few games in the NHL were not the greatest example of what we think he's capable of, but he's still like the numbers he put up last year in the KHL as a under 20 forward that more often than not played fewer than 10 minutes a night was absolutely bonkers. Like the deployment there made absolutely no sense why he didn't play more. He was just that good of a player. And I think with Montreal, like that's important. Who's going to be that long-term number 2 center for him? That's to me the biggest question. But I think that with him, he makes the most of his opportunities. And I think when he gets fully comfortable playing in the NHL, he's going to be in really good shape. I like Jimmy Snuggerud on St. Louis. Probably is going to play first line right out of the gate here. Looks really good in that short little stint last year at the end of the regular season. He was very solid to start the playoffs too. I'd say he arguably was the best rookie in that first round. So that's promising. Ville Koivunen out of Pittsburgh. When you're playing with Sidney Crosby to start the season, that's hard to kind of screw that one up, right? So I think that's going to help there. The way that he played in the preseason, I think, really helped his case. I really liked him in the Buffalo Prospects tournament that he was a part of with Pittsburgh, so that's good. Ryan Leonard, will he be able to thrive this year in Washington? They've got a lot of wingers. There's going to be a lot of competition, and I do expect Washington to regress a little bit, but I still think that Ryan Leonard's just got all the talent in the world. He's going to be a really good power forward, and I feel like a lot of his game is going to be built for the playoffs. So if he's not going to thrive right away, that's fine. I'm not too worried about that. And then I'll go with Michael Misa as another one, San Jose Sharks. I think with him, the fact he's number 2 center, he's not going to have the same exposure to the high quality situations that Macklin Celebrini was last year, but at the same time, like number 2 center is still a big deal, assuming that's where he sticks and then they don't move Will Smith back into that spot. But I think that you look at his shot last year came just it was so much more improved from even the year before, to the point where it's like you look at his game and there's just, okay, he's already a great playmaker. He can hit. Oh, and he's got this shot that he could put like a bazillion goals on. So I think that, it's a good forward group too. Like we're talking about all the defensemen, but like Michael Misa might not even be a top 10 Calder pick this year, and he was the number 2 prospect. So like that shows you how deep this group is.
You talked about Ivan Demidov, and we'll talk about your Calder Trophy favorites here in a second, but I just want to chat about him because the way things currently stand, he's only plus 175 to win the Calder Trophy. That is a 36% implied probability, very likely to win the Calder. Do you think, like we just named 10, and there's probably a few more that we could talk about. Do you think he's that big of a favorite? Like you mentioned, maybe the second line center question marks that Montreal has. Is he that big of a favorite compared to the rest of this group? Because this is obviously an impressive crop of rookies.
He's the guy I think will have the best shot at winning it, but I think people are undervaluing Alexander Nikishin, and I think there's a chance I'm overvaluing him, but having watched him the last few years, like he could have been in the NHL 2-3 years ago. And then you watch like the numbers. Okay, if he can, he's not going to probably put up 50 points in the NHL, but if he can get 35 or 40 as a rookie defenseman, like that's going to be impressive, because he's not going to have to be the every situation guy that Lane Hudson was last year. So like he's probably not going to put up close to 60 points. But Lane Hudson's game is built around dominating with the puck. And Nikishin is just, I think, a bit more of an all-around defenseman. And if he was on the Montreal Canadiens, he would be getting so much love right now. And I think the fact that he's on the Carolina Hurricanes is probably like maybe hurting his value a bit. But I'd still say for sure Demidov is the best option. But I think it's a little closer than some people maybe give it credit.
If you want to get in on Nikishin, he is plus 2,000 right now. So some pretty good odds there if you want to follow Steven's advice, which I suggest that you do. Okay, I think some of the people watching, we just want to talk before we get to your Calder picks, might be saying, hey, we haven't heard Matthew Schaefer's name yet. He made the Islanders' #1 overall pick. Just quick thoughts on Matthew Schaefer.
It's hard for an 18-year-old defenseman to be a full-time guy in the NHL. And I think with Schaefer, not only, he was the first pick, and like, he's going to be a star defenseman. Like he's going to be in the Norris Trophy race pretty quickly in the next couple of years. My concern is that he's an 18-year-old defenseman who only played about 30 games if you count preseason and international exhibition games. Like that's not a lot of hockey last year. And he's kind of in this situation where he can't go to the AHL. He's had nothing to prove in the OHL, and he decided not to go the college route. So it's like, okay. And I think with him, college wasn't going to make the most sense because he just needs to play a lot of games, and he wasn't necessarily going to do that in the NCAA. I think with Schaefer, it's going to be a bit of a learning process. We saw that in the preseason. We saw the highs. We saw the lows, and I expect him to kind of ease into things and maybe get up to speed 15, 20 games into this season. So I don't think he's going to be super high in the Calder votes. Do I think he has the potential to be the best defenseman on this list? Absolutely. But not this season. So you got to give him some time. Maybe you're able to buy low on him in the draft, or maybe someone buys way too high into him because he is the first overall pick. But you got to look at first overall defenseman in the Calder rankings, or Calder race the last couple of years. It's not really something that happens, right? We don't see them really challenging there. And Lane Hudson, he played a couple years of college before he went out in his all-out attack last year. So I think temper your expectations this year, but don't let that dissuade you from the future. I think Matthew Schaefer is going to be the best defenseman that you see as a rookie from this rookie crop in the next 10 years.
One other question before we get to your Calder rankings. Speaking of 18-year-olds, Brady Martin cracked the opening night lineup for the Nashville Predators and is currently listed as their #1 center, or at least #1 line, with Phil Forsberg and Ryan O'Reilly. Is he somebody that you expect, we'll give him 9 games and then he's back in the OHL, or what are your thoughts here?
9 games almost feels like it won't be enough, but I still think it's another one of, like, as much as I love Brady Martin was like my fifth prospect for the draft this past year. There's no reason for him to be the #1 guy in the NHL this year. So I think, look at him to kind of figure things out this year. I'm a massive Brady Martin fan. He's going to be so valuable as a goal scorer, but also as a hitter. I think he'll be more valuable kind of as an all-around guy. I think there's also a lot of his game that will be better outside of fantasy and more in real life. But Brady Martin, as good of the preseason as he had, and as good as I think he'll have an opportunity to start, I don't know if we really need an 18-year-old guy being in the NHL as #1 center. I think that's something where you just got to be like, all right, well, Jet Luchenko looked really good last year and was sent down. Follow that route. That's what I think needs to happen.
Excellent. That is tremendous analysis. All right. You have your top 20 NHL Calder Trophy candidates article coming out this morning. Just preview that. Let the people know where they can find it and kind of what to expect from it.
Yeah, so it's on dailyfaceoff.com at 10:30 a.m. and Eastern. And I think with this one, it's the Calder rankings are hard because so much could change. You got to take into the preseason account, and then also the preseason stats are like brutal online. You never know like what's actually accurate, but it's going to be a really good group. Like you're looking at a potential for Dalibor Dvorsky, who I think is going to be a really key piece of St. Louis's future at like number 18. There's a couple goalies on the list. Levi Marilainen, he's at 19, the Ottawa Senators goalie, and then there's Yaroslav Askarov at 8. I think a lot from seeing a lot of people in fantasy, they look at the fact that he's on the San Jose Sharks and like they're not interested. It's like, guys, he could be a top 10 goalie in the NHL like next year. This could be a good time to kind of take advantage of people not knowing him right now and try and take advantage of him in fantasy leagues. I'm a big Askarov fan. Someone like Ville Koivunen is going to be pretty valuable because of who he's going to be playing with this year. Because if it's not Crosby, I don't see him falling below Malkin. And okay, well, Malkin's not a superstar anymore, but he's still Kenny Malkin, right? And Danil Yurov, another guy I'm really high on. I got him 14. So there's a lot of really good talent this year and a lot of really exciting guys. And I think that's going to make it just a group you're going to be wanting to keep an eye on this year. A lot better Calder race than last year, which was really good at the top end. But after about 3 or 4, that's where things fell off.
Yeah, Askarov is so interesting because, like, obviously from a keeper dynasty perspective, he's a good pick because, yeah, he might not have the most redraft value this year because the Sharks don't project to be great, but in the future he's obviously expected to be an absolute stud. Thank you, Steven, so much for joining us. Happy Hockey Day. And just for the listeners out there, I'm happy to announce that Steven will be joining us every other week on Fridays to talk about dynasty and keeper leagues. We'll do something similar to this, just talk about some of the younger players that might be available on free agents and dynasty and keeper leagues that you can go out and pick up. So look forward to talking to Steven every other Friday. Thank you so much. Happy Hockey Day, and we'll see you guys back here tomorrow. Thanks for watching this video. If you want more great fantasy hockey and betting content from myself, Carter Hutton, Matthew Barnaby, and the rest of the DFO analysts, make sure you subscribe to the DFO Fantasy and Betting YouTube channel today and never miss a minute.